Hello, I'm Carl Jacobs, and in my daily life I'm the CEO and co-founder of Apicbase. In this podcast I'll be looking for answers on how to grow and scale your food service business. I'm talking to numerous experts who've done the same in the past. And in this episode I'll be talking to Henrik Mattsson. Henrik recently joined Hospitio, a company that invests in scaling restaurant businesses. But before that, Henrik was a deputy CEO for Brödernas, which is a very popular Swedish burger brand. Henrik has played a crucial part in the success of this chain. Under his supervision, the concept grew from 7 to nearly 100 locations. And if that wasn't enough, he did it all under 30 months. That's just amazing. Let's jump in and discover his recipe for success. All right, good afternoon, everybody. This is a new podcast of the Food Service Growth Show, and today we have Henrik Mattsson in the podcast. Henrik, very welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Happy to be part of it, and happy to get the opportunity.
I'm very happy that you can join us because I have been told that you are someone who scaled a business from 1 to 100 outlets in 30 months and 2.5 years. And I'm very curious to hear more about that. So maybe just to get started, can you quickly give a little bit of insights in your career in the food service industry and where you're coming from?
So I'm born and raised in Sweden, but I worked I'm 42 years old, living now in Stockholm with my son Wilhelm, that's 8 years old. But I spent my whole career in the restaurant, my whole adult working career in the restaurant industry, and I worked from the years of 20 to 30. I worked in many places around the globe in different positions. It's just I just let destiny and work just take me where the opportunities were. So I've been living in done a summer in Magaluf, done a season or 10 months in Ireland, been in London, been in Australia on a working holiday visa. I'm not sure. I think you have the same opportunities in Belgium, don't you? You can go to Australia and work, maybe.
Yes, you do indeed. Yes.
Yeah. So it's and then I was working on luxury cruise liners and a bit of other stuff. So that's what I did between 20 to 30, and then I decided to study hotel management just to reach that sort of more senior level, because I was working as restaurant manager and I was hungry for a bit of more responsibility and also curious to where the career path could take me. So for the past, after I've studied hotel management, I've been working more in senior roles with hotels and restaurants, also in many parts of the world. So
Right.
and with the focus on building, with the assignments being very commercial, operational led organization, scale and a lot of a red thread is scaling businesses. It's hotel businesses, it's restaurant business in many different shape and forms. So that's the short summary of who I am.
Fantastic. So I'm curious. You mentioned specifically that you love to work for scaling businesses. What is it that attracts you into specifically scaling businesses?
Now, what attracts me, I love the process of starting with on a blank piece of paper and in a room with the mood board and with say a lot of my assignments has been I've been offered opportunity and then sat down in the room with people, with very creative people that has an idea and has a vision and has a goal and has a budget, but they don't know how to do it. So I like to be the one to come in and
Go
just make
for
it happen.
operation.
Or just go for the operation, make everything come alive, and it's a fantastic feeling to go from that first meeting and then just to see everything come alive, and the energy that you have in the scaling process of those first first initial stumbling step to build that, to open up the first restaurant and then just go on to the next one and then see everything develops as you go along. It's a fantastic. I just love that phase of a company, and that's also where I choose to specialize in.
All right, and then the let's say what you've been doing in the past 2.5 years is work with Brödernas. Is that correct?
Yeah, Brödernas is. I joined them. It wasn't 1 to 100. It was 7 units when I joined them. But the vision and the mission was very clear, and the dream for the owners was very clear. So they contacted me, and they set up. And we set up a plan together, and then we moved from 7 units up to 96 when I left. So it wasn't. I wish it was 100. That was the internal target, but so we opened. So had a pace of maybe 1 unit a week.
That's really, it's a very incredible pace. And if you look back on that period and you look in, how did you do that? Because you say, okay, I love getting into a room with a blank piece of paper and a mood board, and 2.5 years later you leave a business and you've opened up 89 or 88 different restaurants. How do you in God's name start something like that, and making sure that you can open one restaurant a week?
To start with, you need to find. Obviously, you can't do it by yourself. You need to be surrounded with very good and hardworking people, very talented people. But the first steps is that you set the basic organization structure, the meeting structure, you set your rollout plan, and then you start to set your framework. When I arrived at Brödernas, the concept was already there. You have the menu was in place, the interior was in place, the machine park, everything was sort of ready. So we looked at the one thing that wasn't ready was procurement, clear roles, titles, organization, how to build an organization. So we made a plan. So you make a 3 month plan, and then you make a 6 month plan, and then you make a 12 month plan. But everything's built on streamlining as much as possible. So in the case of Brödernas, everything had to be a copy paste, and had to also be not as copy paste as a McDonald's kitchen, but we knew that this is the machine park we want to use. This is the suppliers we want to use. These are the delivery times that we can accept. These are the days that we can get deliveries. This is the way we open. This is the way we train staff. This is the way, and everything then put into. We used a project planning tool called Monday, which I can recommend or at least Monday, or at least I can recommend to use a project management tool that everyone has access to, so you can share that platform. You can share all the documentations, so you can by doing it you can also take away a lot of mail and phone correspondence. And you need someone to be responsible of tracking and then set the meeting structure to have the follow up on every step of the journey.
Yeah.
That's also very, very important. So you have very disciplined follow-up steps on what needs to be done.
I've written down quite some things to take into account, but one thing that interests me in particular is the organizational structure. So I hear you talking, and I hear you say, you need good people, hardworking people.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit like the structure at Brödernas? Was it like a HQ structure and then different outlets, or was it let's say everything was decentralized, or was there, let's say, a core team at HQ?
Now we started with, because there wasn't any team with HQ. It was the owners when I came in. It was the owners, and we had one controller. The rest we had to build from, and then we had restaurant managers. So in the first units that we opened, we hired one extra. So we moved with the restaurant managers that we hired from the first. That was the whole strategy. So we hired a bit overqualified restaurant managers that had a solid restaurant management background. We trained them and we let them do their own openings. We supported them with the openings, and in that opening, they also had their number two with them. So when we moved on to the next 5, we took the number 1 out of the business, and then we moved the number 2 up. And then we scaled in Stockholm to start with. So we moved from 7 to, I think, 22, 25 units in Stockholm in a very fast time. So we had a smaller geographical area to scale on to start with. And then when we reached 20, 25 units, we had a solid experience base. Even though we did it fast, the guys that then went outside of Stockholm to open new units, they already had opened 2 units each. So then we can just spread it across the country, and then we duplicated the process again and again and again. And then once we got up to 40, 50 units, we then split it into regions, or areas first. And then areas became regions. So now Brödernas has, today they have 9 regional managers.
Mm-hmm.
So we just scaled it from those restaurant managers. Obviously, it's super important that you keep these key players. So you need to make sure that the workload is that they have a healthy, balanced workload as well, and keep constant contact with them, check in how they are, if they need to rest. Because one thing you can't do, you can't lose these people or the key players at the beginning. You are dependent on. So it was a very decentralized structure. Everything was bottom up to start with. So
Right.
and all the training was done locally and not controlled on. Controlled and set centrally. And but then once we start rolling it out, we just gave the trust and responsibility to the people that we have chosen to give the opportunity to open up these restaurants, and then they also got the opportunity to make a very fast career with us.
Mm-hmm. So I noted down that responsibility is let's say and I guess trust is a very important element and ingredient of the organization. But is there anything of because scaling often implies that you can reduce costs because of the fact that you do not need to multiplicate everything in the business. Is there any scale advantage in the beginning, or when did the scaling advantage start happening for Brödernas?
The scale advantage start happen. That it happened pretty much after Stockholm was after we done Stockholm, when we had the core knowledge of. I think we had 6 really good restaurant managers that then had the experience. But then the other part that I forgot to mention is that we decided on an early stage to trust we said what we need to do, what we are experts in, that's taking care of our guests. It's opening up restaurants, it's training staff. That's what we should focus on. We on a very early stage we said, in terms of the actual building of the restaurant, the project lead of building of the restaurants, the choosing of the machines and interior and so on, that should be done by external experts. So instead of having our own in-house team, we choose to work with experts that their core business, they've built kitchen for in 40 to 50 years, so they know how to build a kitchen. And then the same thing with interior, same thing with builders, same thing with. So we said the staff will have access to the restaurant and will see the restaurant when they walk into the restaurant the first day, because we never involve them in drawings. We never involve, because by doing it we also reduce meeting times, and again, all about trust. We just explained to you will always have a head chef, you will always have a restaurant manager that will have strong opinions on how a restaurant is built, because everyone will go to themselves and have their own everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but you can't give everyone. You can't have consensus with everyone if you're working in this rapid pace. You need to go. You need to trust the expert. You need to let the expert take the decision, and you need to. And if for some reason, if the decision is wrong, just everyone will just come together and then we solve it instead of having a lot of meetings. You could easily have 40 meetings leading up to an opening discussing how a kitchen should be planned, but we choose to have none. We choose to just give it to the experts.
Yeah. All right.
And that's
And
also a key part of it. Same thing with choosing. Um, we relied on we're burger chains. We relied on our meat supplier to choose our meat mix. We just said, look, you guys are the expert. You tell us what the meat that we should use. That's the best for the market. You know the market better than us. So again, so we used a lot of our suppliers instead of having this internal process. We had it externally. So that by doing it, you also created a very very big organization without having to hire experts and having to pay
and
for the experts. Because yeah.
and how did the suppliers react on this question? Because more often than not, they probably just get the order from the chef because the chef knows best, and then they just have to deliver, preferably on time. So now you completely turn it around and you say, okay, we have a burger, tell us what we need to serve. How did they react with that on that?
Now, like you said, it might sound like the most natural working process in the world, but it's a very, even though it sounds simple, it's very hard to actually to be able to do it, because you need to convince the key members of staff, which you need to do when you recruit them, and you need to explain to them that this is how we work here. This is your responsibility. This is what I expect from you. But from a supplier perspective, they're getting, they love, of course, they love to get the opportunity. So my experience is that they're getting more involved. They're getting more. They want to grow with you as a partner. They will make sure that the business is solid for everyone. There won't be any argument about a penny here and there, or it just creates a very healthy, trustworthy relationship, and you're also getting so many more experts working on the same challenge than you would ever have in trying to solve it internally. Because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that is something that is quite new to me. I haven't often heard this relationship with suppliers. My gut feeling would say that they are trying to offer you the most expensive meat, or the meat where they have the highest margin. Was this something you encountered, or did they really go for, let's
Nah,
say?
but no, I understand what you mean. No, I was also very clear with my expectation. I just said, look, this is I'll give you the opportunity. You are the expert. Show me that you are the expert. But I will see it quite fast if you try to fool me. And then in that case, I will give you the opportunity. But when you say we will open 100 restaurants, it's very few people that will actually believe you. But you have, fortunately, or luckily for me, I had worked with some of them before, so they knew that, and we've done similar journeys together. So, well, not similar. This is a journey that would never happen again, I guess. But at least scaling journeys together. So there was a trust there, and they also just said, guys, I trust you. You should trust me, and then just let's make a good deal together, and then don't fool us, because we will see it. We have all the systems in the world to see that as well. And obviously, I know we also made it. Everything was digitalized. That's another thing. We told our system suppliers that we work with what you got instead of. I'm sure you guys will meet that all the time. You have an excellent system. I will actually have an intro tomorrow, of the whole Apicbase platform. So I'm looking forward to it. But I believe in using, because as an example, I believe in using what you guys have built, because there's a thought behind it. There's no, but I'm sure that there's a lot of guests or customers out there that would like to have to change details in the system all the time, which is I can also respect it, but I personally don't see the point in questioning experts. I rather see that, and I rather tell my staff, this is the function, this is how we use it, and the end game and the recipe will still be the same. We just need to accept this is the way we need to do it, and then instead I prefer to have a sit down and have a longer sort of a strategy discussion of what can be done long term, instead of focusing on the short term. How should we change the systems that we use? Or how should we change the layout of a POS? Or how should we have different design of an inventory system? You can end up in so many discussions that is, for me personally, and the way I like to build companies together with my teams is it's unnecessary. If the solution is already there, just use it as it is. And then again, as a restaurant expert, focus on what we do best, meaning taking care of our guests, educating our staff, being a good manager. I mean, that's the most important thing, making sure that your restaurant looks good and nice, and focus on the core business, and let the rest let the experts on all the other areas do the work for you.
All right. No, that sounds really useful, and you make me blush a little bit by saying that you will have a conversation about Apicbase in the future. But this is perfect proof that we talk to everybody in the industry, not just our customers. But now we're talking about technology and software technology. Can you from your experience, tell us a little bit about how you see, let's say, an ecosystem in a restaurant, and what are the key, let's say, technologies you need in a restaurant, and especially in scaling businesses?
The key technology I think you need is the key decisions, and again, from my perspective, the key decisions should be as close to the guest as possible. I mean, I would like to see technology replace processes, meetings, even overhead counts. If you can give the restaurant manager or the general manager, the person responsible for the running of the day-to-day business, the chance to solve recruitment themselves, contract themselves, procurement themselves, do the end of month themselves, do the analytics of the business themselves. That's what you need. I mean, there's another system similar to your system. I think you know Fourth Hospitality in UK.
Absolutely, yes.
I worked with that before, and I mean I know your platform, so which I will get more familiar tomorrow. But this is what's also missing on the European market. We don't have these 360 solution platforms on the European market at the moment. Well, you guys are building it, and it's coming together nicely. You have a broad offer, but it's not on the Nordic market. I guess you're coming into the Nordic market, but on the Nordic market, the 360 solution isn't there, as it is with if you look at the Fourth Hospitality working in the London chain, for example, then you have a general manager that can control their business and run it. You don't need that big overhead, and by doing it, you can also have a manager. The challenge in the Nordics, for example, is that we lose a lot of people that will come into their 30s. They will be when they're becoming parents, or for some other reasons can't work evenings or weekends. Then you lose a lot of experience. If you have the technology platform where you can actually run everything from the restaurant, then you can offer these restaurant experts the chance of working Monday to Friday, and then they can focus on ordering, scheduling, forecasting, budgeting, menu engineering, attesting invoices, end of month, all of it. And then they can hire younger sort of shift leaders that can just focus on the kitchen day-to-day operation, the restaurant day-to-day operation, without having the obstacles of thinking about, did I schedule right today? Did I have I ordered the right amount? They could just focus on the actual product, the service, and then they could trust that the general manager or the restaurant manager have done the work for them. So I think that's the key for me, is have the platform and have the system that will put the key decisions as close to the guest as possible and not in the head office too far away, because then it's also value destroying for a company to have a if the overhead is too big. And finally, I'm talking a lot, but finally, it's also good to be able to have the general manager can also be on the floor for example, lunch for 2.5, 3 hours, and they can also do training on site. So you can combine in a day with administration with operations, and by also doing it, you can also have a more efficient schedule and a more efficient. I mean, you can if the general manager can spend time in training, you don't need an area manager, you don't need a regional manager. You save time on travels, you save time on hotels. You can raise the salary for the general manager. You can even add a better bonus. So I believe in decentralized structures with centralized technical solutions. Yeah, with the technical platform that's centralized, and it's
And if you then I heard you say a few KPIs, but if we focus on that for a moment, so you in the end you had 96 restaurants reporting to you or to the team at Brödernas. What were the let's say the 3 to 5 KPIs that they needed to report on? What are the ones that on a weekly or a monthly basis, the KPIs that you wanted to know from each of those restaurants?
Well, first of all, we had a controller working full time analyzing everything. So first, an analytic platform, so where we gave them access on a daily basis to the KPIs.
Okay.
But the KPIs, the most important thing is the forecast of every unit. So you do your forecast sales, and then you have your targeted staff KPI percentage, and that then generated a scheduled amount of hours that you had to. So you could only, let's say, you could only schedule 250 hours. So that's something that was controlled on a daily basis, or at least before the week started. It was controlled by a controller. They could just say, look, why have you scheduled 20 hours above your forecast? Can you explain? So that's and then once the week passed, you also said, oh, congratulations, you went 20 hours below.
And
or why did you went 20 hours below?
How did you get to those 250 hours? That's per outlet, I guess. So they were 250
I
hours.
have we get it from the set. So we worked with Caspeco and then Caspeco has a forecast module built into the salary system, and then you get all this. You get this. So you do the sales, and then you have all the contracts and the salary information of the staff. So you get an average cost per hour, and then you take your forecast. You put in your KPI salary percentage, and then you get your hours.
All right.
So that's the way out. So we were talking hours instead of it's just hours, so they could easily understand this is the amount of hours. So they could say, look, you need to save hours. You need to take a risk on Monday, for example, and then you need to put it on Friday.
Yeah. So this is a clear example of talk in the language of the manager, not so much in the in the language of money, but really in they need to plan in hours, and that's why you talk in hours with them.
Exactly.
All right.
So it's so they can easily understood. And another thing was obviously cost control in terms of the raw material. But then we looked at the top 25 freshly produced, or the top 25 turnover products. That's where we did inventory weekly, and the rest we did inventory monthly.
All right.
And then turnover per hour. So those three basically were the key KPIs for us. The turnover per hour is there. That's where you can compare similar units to each other, and then you can say, look. And then you can look at hours. You can say you have the same turnover. You use 50 hours more. You have the same amount of seats. How come? And then you can also switch if needed. You can also switch place, and they can cross-train each other. And then you can. So this is how we do it here. This is how we can actually manage. We can reach the same sales with in a similar operation and so on.
All right.
So 3 KPI factors, and then end of month, obviously other costs has been a big part
Of
now
course.
with
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
energy and everything going up.
All right. Maybe a little bit out of the box question. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I guess you opened 96 restaurants. Did you also close some of those restaurants? And if you did, what were the reasons for closing them?
We closed 2, and the reason was because they were in. Do you have paddle courts in Belgium?
We do. It's a
Yeah.
big hit today.
Yeah, so it was a big hit in the Nordics. It's not a hit anymore, unfortunately. So we had 2 restaurants in paddle court arenas, but then the people just stopped playing the sports, and then so that's why we had to close it. There's just
Yeah.
no flow of guests coming into them, and then we sold 2 of them.
Okay.
So yeah, if we had kept them, we would have had 100.
All right. Yeah. Yeah. Now the mystery is solved. No,
Yeah,
that's really interesting actually. So it's actually a matter of wrong location, wrong sports almost,
yeah,
and
yeah,
that's why you
yeah.
yeah, okay. Is there one learning that you did along the way that you wanna pass along, where you say this is, if you start scaling a business, this is what you need to get right?
You definitely need to get the communication and the project management right. That's the key, because the follow up, where I would say the project management tool is the key,
All right.
and of course also to be in the recruitment phase, to be very clear with expectations in terms of this is what I expect from you. The rest will be done by these people and experts, and be very clear that you have, especially from the way I'm working, so everyone understands that what's their role, what's their responsibility, and there needs to be trust in uh, every other part of the business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they just, because the most dangerous thing is when your key players or your key individuals lose, if they start to lose focus, if they
Mhm.
start to think more of the design of the kitchen, more of the uh, when will it be ready, or they start to think about all other stuff, then train your staff, make the restaurant ready, uh, make sure it's clean, make sure the guests are happy. So it's just very important that there needs to be boundaries between the uh, uh, responsibilities. So you have, this is what you guys need to focus on. The rest, you need to trust that it's been taken care of by your colleagues. That we trust all the best to do this.
All right. Um,
It's
in the past half an hour, we've had a lot of conversation about Brödernas and about your role, about scaling from 7 to 96 businesses or outlets. But you're not working there anymore. What are you doing today?
Today I'm at a company called Hospitio,
Mhm.
which or Hospitio Group. It's a group. It's initiated by a group of investors, where there wants to build a restaurant group, or have given me the responsibility as the CEO to build a restaurant group on the Northern European market. If you look at the Northern European market in restaurants, it's basically only one segment that has some big players in it, and that's the burger segment.
All
If
right.
you're looking at kebab chains, or pizza, or Asian, or Mexican, or healthy food, or this, you will find that it's very fragmented. You don't have any big players on those markets. So what we see a big gap in the market to consolidate, to build new brands that can then, similar to Brödernas, but then to have 4 to 5 portfolio companies that we can scale. Mexican, uh, There's you can go vegan. There's plenty of opportunities on vegan sort of coffee, food cafes. Yeah, well, you have vegan junk food in Amsterdam, but I think that's the only one in the northern Europe. There's no big, you have Pizza Hut, but there's no massive pizza concept in Northern Europe. You have there's no Tex-Mex. I can go on into to so we see a very big opportunity, and especially on the sector where you can offer products where you can be relevant and offer product to a wide range of people, Monday to Sunday, lunch, dinner, and takeaway. There's also a bit of a paradigm shift in was the supermarket, the prices in the supermarket compared to buying food on the lower segment, on the food that's available, as I mentioned, Monday to Sunday, lunch, dinner, and evening. The price gap isn't that big, and there's a lot of people that the knowledge of cooking food is somewhat disappearing with the generations, and also the knowledge of there's a lot of people living by themselves, and there's a lot of people working a lot. I mean, 5 years ago, the restaurant industry passed the supermarket industry in US. There's only a matter of time before it will also happen in Europe. So it's that's where our aim is going to be.
And is this eat in or take away, or is it a combination?
The combination. So you want to be relevant in all use the retail word, in all omni channels, in all sales channels of the Horeca market. So eat in, takeaway, catering, events, festivals.
Everything needs to be covered.
Yeah, curbside pickup. But then also work on the market with the products that we're already eating today. But just make a brand out of it. That's the whole idea. And then you can also do it with a low capex cost, and the same strategy as we done with the Brödernas.
Yeah.
We just want to do burgers.
And do you already have a concept which is live, or are you working on the first one at the moment?
Now we're working on the first ones, but we will actually look at buying companies. Instead of we look at creating one ourselves, but instead of creating, we rather go in and buy companies that has maybe 3 to 5 units. They have a proof of concept that has a potential, a profit. They can show that they have a profitability, and we want to keep the entrepreneurs in the company.
All right.
We want to be a reinforcer. We want to be a facilitator. We want to be that part that can help them with the finances, with the whole system, the whole platform that they don't know. Scaling companies and knowledge, and we have the network, we have all the systems in place. Let's see. Hopefully, we can find a way to work together, and then you can cover the technical part. But then we have whole connection with wholesalers, staff, builders, architects, and every single supplier, IT, social media, marketing that you need on the Northern European market, from within my own network and my shared network, and together with we have a great advisory board that we're now building with senior now working operational profiles in our industry. So we want to be that partner to good entrepreneurs that wants to scale their companies, but they don't have the opportunities. And then obviously we will benefit from their ideas, and we will make money on it. But so will they.
Yeah.
So for all the entrepreneurs out there that are listening, I'm open for discussions.
Fantastic. That's a fantastic thing to end on. I just conclude by saying that you're building actually with this Piteo Group a network of specialists that you can offer to businesses in order for them to scale. Thank you very much, Henrik. This was a very interesting conversation, and thank you for being with us on this show.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Henrik. What an amazing story the Brödernas business is, especially on how a decentralized approach can work if you trust your managers and provide them with the right tools to excel. And for the audience, thank you for joining me on this podcast. We will be releasing plenty of more interesting interviews. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any episode. And for now, thanks for listening and see you next time.